Namaste, I am Dr. Rahul Singh and I welcome you to Dr. Syntactics YouTube channel. There have been some incredible inventions over the past, but usme se, I think internet has to be given the number one spot, followed by the mobile phone. Telecommunication is at the heart of everything. Business ho, chahe kuch bhi ho. In the course of evolution, we started off with very basic stuff such as landline. The whole story started in 1972 when Martin Cooper from Chicago made the first cell phone, and believe me or not, it was a 2 kilogram heavy chunk of metal from, I think it was Motorola phone. It was a Motorola phone. It took almost 20 years for the first cell phone to come to India, and it was Jyoti Basu, the Chief Minister of West Bengal back in the day, who made the first phone call on Indian soil. That was a historic moment. We then moved towards improving the data transfer speeds, and then we moved from 2G, 3G, 4G, and now it's 5G. Let me put this in perspective. So if you see the X-rays, if you see the gamma rays, you see UV rays, UVB, UVC, all of these fall into the shorter wavelength category. Whereas the radio waves, that which your phone utilizes to reach the tower, it is in the form of radio waves, which is also electromagnetic radiation, but it has a very high wavelength. These higher wavelengths are strategically used because higher wavelengths can travel through walls, whereas the shorter wavelength, they're mostly like light, which can't go through material. And so the shorter ones are the more dangerous ones. The longer wavelengths are generally safe. Every instrument, if it has to come into a production line, they have to do something called as the SAR rating. SAR values, as per law, have to be less than 1.6. Any mobile phone right now in production utilizes energy less than 2 watts. Let me compare the 4G versus 5G. 4G uses a 700 megahertz to a 2600 megahertz. Average wavelength of 14 centimeters. It's not really a problem. But when we move towards 5G, it changes a little bit. We're utilizing somewhere up to 2600 megahertz, and then suddenly we have a humongous jump which goes all the way to 60,000 megahertz, 1,000 times higher frequency and a shorter wavelength. So based on the frequency and wavelength, all of the data transfer occurs. I don't want to go into technicalities, but really I want to be focusing on what happens when this electromagnetic radiation begins to affect us. You go into hard sunlight, very, very harsh sunlight. You're on the beach, you go to Goa, you go to some beach, right? So you come back with a sunburn. Now that happens because light can have UVB and UVC that falls into the shorter wavelength category, and it can cause some skin burns. It can cause some tissue damage because we are mostly water, and we also have something very important called as the DNA. So DNA gets damaged, and that happens with a shorter wavelength. So if we are moving towards 5G, we are moving towards the shorter wavelength, and who knows, in the future, 6G, 7G, 10G, 20G, we might end up having real serious problems with this kind of technology. I want to make a phone call. My phone has to reach the tower. So it has to spend some energy from here. Say if it has 1 bar of signal on this, it has to spend a little more energy to reach the tower. Compared to if I have 3 or 4 or full bars on it, it has to spend less energy. So the closer the phone, the lesser it spends. The farther it is, the more it spends. So higher energy ratings from the phone means it gets a little hot. It also radiates more energy. So अगर ऐसे situation में, if you have a low signal and if you're putting the phone to your ears, you are at a risk of absorbing more of its radiation. My final advice to you is keep the phone as far as possible from your body when you make phone calls. And how do you listen to it? You have 2 options, basically. They're very practical and intuitive, that you can use your speakerphone or you can use your Bluetooth device. So stay in a good reception area, use your Bluetooth, you will be safe for the most part. Now, a second very practical scenario, most of us have one phone, but there are a few people who are into business, and I understand you need to have multiple phones. But what happens when you have a SAR value safe for one phone, but multiple phones together, it sums up. It's a dangerous scenario because 1.6 of this, 1.6 of that, 1.6 of a third device, all of that adds up, and it can get nasty. So try to avoid those kind of scenarios and you will be safe for the most part. I'll see you again in the next video. I hope you like this. Give it a thumbs up, and also don't forget to comment in the comment section. I like listening to what you say, and it goes a long way. All right then, I'll see you again. Bye.